everybody. Hello, everybody. It is a really beautiful Sunday here in Los Angeles, and I am headed up to the Lookout Mountain client because our schedules are weird, and that's just what's happening. But you know, all the crappy news that's in the news. Are you gonna turn? Okay, you're just gonna meditate. I see. I don't want to talk about current events here. This is my escape from the madness of the everyday BS. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's how I feel about it. I need a break from the kaka. And there's plenty of opportunity to see people who are outraged over everything that's outrageous, and everyone is right to be outraged. It's a real profound moment of self-reflection for the United States. So I've been listening to, when I go for my walks, because it's been raining, I've had a lot of arthritis-y stuff. It's been hard to move around. So when I don't get out for my walk, my long walk, it's a little tough to get in rhythm right away. So instead of listening to my French pop music, shout out Stromae, love Stromae, I have switched over to listening to Audible, and what I'm listening to right now is The Boys by Ron Howard and Clint Howard. And if you're looking for just something that just feels good and relaxing and is a sweet, good story told by sweet, good storytellers, because I'm exhausted. So yesterday I went for a really long walk, and I didn't want to listen to a book, so I picked a movie, and I picked The Post, which I think now was directed by Ron Howard. So I'm very in a Ron Howard zone these days. But I think about the Washington Post and what we've lost, that legacy media, trying not to be current affairsy, but it's hard to resist. So the Washington Post has been gutted, and when you think about its role in the 60s and 70s with Watergate and Nixon's resignation and all of that, it's astonishing. And I didn't pick watching this movie because of the news about the Washington Post. I picked this movie because if Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep can't get you through a tough time, then I don't know what we're doing with ourselves. Not that it's a comedy, but they're great actors, and they represent our better nature, which I don't see. I don't see that right now. It's thin on the ground at the moment. So it's weird how I've been attracted to that story, because people talk about the cover-up that Nixon did as being very child's play compared to what is going on right now. But prior to Watergate, there were the Pentagon Papers. I think that's what they're called, the Pentagon Papers. And this was a study that the United States conducted about the viability of the Vietnam War and whether or not we could be successful. And administration after administration touched on these papers and affirmed, president after president, that nope, we can't win this war. And yet they pumped more and more boys into that war, knowing that the likelihood of us winning. What are you doing, dude? You are a problem. That it was not going to work. It was a 30-year cover-up. Before we get to Watergate, a 30-year cover-up by multiple administrations, because nobody wanted to be the one to say that they were going to pull out of Vietnam and it was going to be a big fat L for the United States. So that kind of reputation protection, that kind of ego-driven decision making is still with us, and we still have it. And it makes me wonder, I've always wondered, what is the appeal to go into these powerful positions? And are you looking to better your community, or are you looking to do something that's advantageous for yourself? Because power is very, very seductive. And watching all of this, I remembered an incident from my 20s. My 20s? Maybe 30s. There was a guy who was one of the speakers in The Secret. If you ever have seen that movie, it's about, the power of the mind and manifestation and all of that. There was this guy giving a little speakery thing, and my friend got free tickets for the event. Do you want to go? So, okay, I went with her to go see the speaker. And he was on a platform in the center of the room, and everybody was sat around him like a theater in the round. And my friend wanted to sit in the front row. And you may not have figured this out about me yet. I'm not a front row sitter person. I prefer to sit in the back row. I don't want to sit in the front row. So the guy is going on about, his theory of life and how to make it better and what you can do to become a more empowered, more fulfilled human being. He didn't say anything that I thought was that revolutionary, but he didn't say anything that was offensive. He didn't say anything that hit my spidey senses. And then in the middle, like maybe 3/4 of the way through the presentation, we were instructed to pull out the flyer they gave us when we came in, and to prove to the universe we were serious about improving our lives. We needed to look at that flyer and see there was an order form on there. And we needed to put in our credit card information so the universe would know we were serious about transforming our lives. And I already knew at this moment that I was not going to buy anything. So I didn't have any money, but even if I did have money, the ham-handed way this was handled and the idea that we have to prove something to the universe with our credit card information. Oh, now my spidey senses were not tingling. They were affirmed that this was shenanigans. And I was not into it at all. And the room was, the vast majority of the people in the room were women. And so it was evening time. And so there was a lot of rustling of people grabbing their purses and pulling out their wallets and deciding which credit card to use and, you know, scribbling down numbers and, you know, all the, think about the amount of time it takes. Get your purse, dig in there, find your wallet, choose a credit card, pull it out, read your credit card, write it down. You know, this takes a couple of minutes. The thing is, I only had one card. It was my debit card. I used it for everything. And I had the number in my head. So I didn't need to pull out my purse. I didn't need to pull out my wallet. I didn't need to pull out my credit card. I put my information on the form. I don't really know why I did that, because I already knew I wasn't going to buy anything. But I filled it out, and then I waited. And here I am in the front row, and I'm not writing anything down, and I'm not fiddling with my purse and my wallet and my plastic. And I caught the guy's attention, and he gave me such a look, and he decided to make an example of me. Don't you believe in yourself? Don't you believe you can have a better life? Don't you want the world to know that you deserve all the great things in life? Why do I need to prove anything to you, mister? Is, you know, what I think now. But in the moment, bugs are protein. Ugh, gross. Excuse me. It's so gross. So in the meantime, he's, you know, really, he's got his salesman sleeves rolled up, and he's about to tell me about myself and make an example of what a loser I was to not be participating in his weird little prove to universe ritual. And I said, I'm done. He didn't seem to understand what I meant. And he pressed. He says, you're not writing anything. And I said, because I'm finished. He just couldn't grok what I meant. And then I said, I know my credit card by heart. I'm done. I have filled it out. And there was a weird moment where I saw straight through this man. And as he saw me look at him, he knew that I saw through him. And I think somebody who was a genuine person might have cracked a joke or made light of this situation. This man turned icy cold and looked away from me, turned his back to me, and then didn't look at me or my friend or this side of the room for the rest of the presentation. And based on the way he went after me, friend didn't turn in her little form either, although I think she probably was very interested. Because a lot of what he was talking about was how to be balanced, how to don't over focus on one aspect of life, focus on several aspects and try and keep things in balance. And not a bad approach. I'm not arguing against that approach. But the way he went after me and tried to manipulate the situation and tried to use shame as leverage, he was trying to exercise his power over me, his power of persuasion, and it failed. And when it failed, he couldn't recover, because what was happening there was not a let me give you something to improve your life situation. It was, what can I get from this audience person? And I think that if you're in a situation like that where you're selling an idea, it's got to be a two-way street. You've got to have, what are they getting out of it, right? It has to be, it can't be so gimme, 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 which is exactly what it was. It was very gimme, gimme, gimme. So fast forward about 18 months, 2 years, something like that, and I see a news item, and the man has been arrested because he ran a sweat lodge, which, by the way, I don't think he is Native American. He doesn't present as Native American. So fully cultural appropriation, at least from my armchair. If he grew up on the res, then, my bad, I take this part back. But he was leading a group of people, a guided meditation in a sweat lodge, and a few people started to feel unwell from the heat, and they wanted to step out of the heat lodge, the sweat lodge, and he shamed them into staying. And I just know it was the same level of shame that he tried to put on me over my credit card. And I felt in that moment so terrible for the people who lost their lives. Really terrible. But I also felt affirmed about my instincts, that I was able to correctly read the situation. But I was the only person in that room at that time, on that occasion, who did, in the moment. We're kind of having, I think, a bit of a sweat lodge moment now. I think that people are starting to realize that there's been a lot of manipulation. The tariffs being deemed not legal means that tariffs have to get paid back. And what I didn't really piece together when I heard that bit of news was that even though we're paying higher for products because of these tariffs, it's the American people who are going to have to pay back the tariffs to the countries that have been taxed. So we get to pay for the tariffs twice. I just hope that we can wake up enough to recognize that something's rotten here and something has to be done about it, because watching the way things have been covered up and concealed, the way that Pam Bondi to avoid yes or no answers on her questions and talk about the Tao when somebody said yes or no, is this thing true? And she starts to talk about the Tao. She's so out of her depth on this. And if you don't know what DARVO is, it's a tactic. It stands for deny, accuse, reverse a victim and offender. So whenever she was asked a question she didn't like, she would play the victim and say, when did you ask Merrick Garland these questions? So she turns herself into the victim, and she turns the senators who are, or congresspeople who are asking her questions into attackers. You're attacking me over something you should have taken care of already. Except it's very convenient to miss the fact that, you know, Bill Barr was in charge of the DOJ under Trump. Somewhere you want to jump from Obama to Biden and skip that Trump was in there at all. So he's part of the problem no matter how you slice it. No matter how you slice it. I don't understand why people do stuff like this. It just doesn't, it boggles my mind. And her need for validation supersedes her moral compass. She's externalized her moral compass to be a lapdog and pat her on the head, and as long as Trump likes what she's saying, she's happy. I'm really sorry to be talking about politics. It's not what I want to do, but it's such a part of the fabric of where we are. I don't know how you get around it. It's who we are right now, and there's a lot of self-examination that needs to happen. Just try to listen to your instincts, I think is what I'm saying. Try to forgive yourself if you feel like you've been betrayed by this administration. It's not your fault you were betrayed. You were given promises that were not fulfilled on. And if you feel like you've been duped, good. Then vote for somebody else next time. But it's time to examine who we're voting for and why, what they represent, and who they represent. Are they representing their lust for power? Are they representing a need to make the lives of their constituents better? Are they just greedy and hungry? Or are they caring? There's so many questions we need to start asking, we need to start examining. And I think that's where we are now. So, there we go. I got that off my chest. I feel better. I don't know how you feel. But tomorrow is Monday. It's a new week. We get to see what the world brings us and have a good day. Have a good rest of the weekend. Have a good day. That's what I want for all of us. Even the people who voted for that big orange poo-poo. I don't want anybody to be eating their guts out over this. There's no point in crying over spilt milk. We gotta pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, get to work in undoing a lot of the mess that has been made. Yep. Time to turn on the black light and scan it over the room and clean up the stains. That's where we are. to say bye-bye.